Well, hello, everyone. It is Saturday, April the 10th. Oh my goodness, Ronnie, it's April already.
It's flying.
But time is just zooming right on by, no pun intended. We are so happy to be back with you today. This is House Talk Pregame. I am your host, sports mental health empowerment coach, Dr. Lauren Pitts. My amazing co host extraordinaire, former scholar athlete Ronnie Ransom is here. He's my trooper. He's my ride or die. Andre and Jared will be joining us when their schedules permit for them to join us and to help us to bring this information to you all week in and week out. And we are just elated to come before you every week and share this powerful information. Oh my goodness, there's just so much to talk about, but I think that it's important for you to know that HT Pregame is all about education. It's all about liberation. It's all about empowerment. It's all about sharing this information with you, our viewing and listening audience, week in and week out, because we take an exorbitant amount of pride in our Black and Brown communities all over the country. We put this disclaimer out every week that, truth be told, all of the information that we share every single solitary week is beneficial to everybody. It really, really, truly is beneficial to everybody. However, because of some of the stigmas that go on around mental health and around scholar athletes, and because of how men and women of color tend to dominate so many sports out there, we sort of harness the information that we share and we approach it from a culturally sensitive lens that makes sure that people within our own communities, because if you all had noticed, Ronnie and I are in the Black and Brown hue, if you hadn't noticed, we live this experience every day of what it's like to be persons of color and what it looks like in our families and in our communities. So we come to you every week wanting to give you this information. We share this information with our Heritage Sports Radio Network family. We're always super duper excited when we talk about our relationship with HSRN because we compete with ourselves, right? And what I mean by that is we're on HSRN at 11 a.m. on Saturdays too. We're also on HSRN at 10 p.m. on Saturday nights and then again at 6 p.m. on Sundays, so you can tune in. We encourage you to download the HSRN app from the App Store. Just put in Heritage Sports Radio Network, download that app. You can catch us anytime on there by doing that. Just a wealth of great information. We take pride in sharing this information with our historically Black college and university families, scholar athletes, professional athletes and their families, and all of you, our viewing and listening audience, because we know that this is pertinent information. We know that this is powerful information. We know that this is life transforming information that each of you can benefit from every day of your lives. And if you apply the information that we share, wow, you actually can live the life that you love living. And that is what we want you to do. We've got a powerful show for you today. Ronnie is going to tell you more about it right now.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Pitts, and good morning, everybody. What a wonderful Saturday we have here. First day cutting grass this year. Grass cutting season has officially started for all the men out there and women too who choose to cut their grass. Mm-hmm. So, pollen has been the pollen has been on a tear here in Virginia. I don't know how it is down in Texas, but the pollen has been on an absolute tear up here.
Yeah,
like Dr. Pitt said, we have a very, very great show today, a very, very special guest whose name actually is what we all want with our finances. So yes. We're going to be introducing him shortly. His name is Mike Profit from Mass Mutual. He's a financial planner and advisor. So can't wait to have him join in and chime in on this conversation. So today's topic for the show is called Why is Financial Literacy So Important? Mm-hmm. Financial literacy is the knowledge necessary to make important financial decisions. It can help with decisions on budgets, debt, investing, and saving. Yet globally, only 33% of adults are financially literate. Let's talk about that today with Mike Profit, as well as me and Dr. Pitts will be sharing some mental health tips as well. Looking forward towards a great show. So let's go ahead and get started with these mental health tips. And I'll go first. My tip is kind of like a piggyback off of last week's tip, where it's not necessarily as much mental health as it is kind of like a discipline strategy and things like that. And since this is Financial Literacy Month, I thought I would share a nice little tidbit that I had learned last year that I think is extremely cool and extremely fun way of making saving money, not as painful as it sounds for some people. So it's this savings technique called I Got Five on it. I know some people in the Black and brown community might remember that phrase from a song by Loonies out in the Bay Area. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about today. But so when we talk about I Got Five on it, so it's a simple strategy. Every time you come across a $5 bill, you save it.
Ooh, okay.
So now you can make this a quarterly goal, or a year goal, or even a monthly goal. Every $5 bill that comes in your hand, whether it's change, you go to the ATM machine, you get change at the grocery store, whatever the case may be. If you see a $5 bill come in your hand, you automatically save it. And at the end of your quarterly goal or yearly goal, me and my wife did this, I think, during the summertime last year. I think we did it from like June to September, somewhere around there. And it was fun, Every time we got a $5 bill, we put it in we had a little shoebox that we would put it in. And it was a fun little thing to do. And it didn't make it seem like saving was that much harder. Me and my wife have gotten really good at making sure we pay ourselves first, when we get paid and stuff like that. That was a very hard process to really get established, especially, I'll be, full disclosure. My spending habits in my early 20s was, well, I know it's coming back to me. So, I might as well go ahead and spend it right now. So, I think that is a great tip for people, especially for our younger listeners, our high school students, or, our early college, younger undergrad college students. If, money is tight and things like that, this is a great way to start saving money and building financial discipline. We always talk about motivation and things like that. Motivation runs out. If you and your significant other or you yourself says, hey, this month I want to start saving, I'm going to save this much, that much. And, while you might be motivated to do that, after a while, that motivation runs out. So that's where discipline kicks in at. That's where making that decision every single day that these are my goals, I'm going to see my goals through. So this is a fun, exciting way to start saving money and to help you get in the idea and the habit of saving money. So you and your friends or you and your significant other, if you got five on it, stash it.
I love that. I've never heard that before, Ronnie. That is such a great idea. It reminds me of when I was, younger. One of the things that my grandpa said is, as I said last week, there wasn't a lot of conversation around finances. But one of the things that my grandfather did tell me is that every time you get paid, every time I got my little check for my $3.35 an hour from McDonald's, when you go to the bank to cash your check, get a roll of quarters and a roll of, you remember the 50-cent pieces, the Kennedy halves, get a roll of them and put it in your bank or your jar or whatever it is, and do that every time you get paid. So that's actually something that I've continued on into adulthood. And I tell you, that change at times has been my saving grace.
So what I hear you saying is you're the reason we had this coin shortage last year.
Maybe, because I do. You get paid and it's like, now it's not just, a small amount, but yeah, you just grab those coins up and put them in a jar, whatever the case may be, and then cash them in. For me, getting to a point where, okay, the jar is full now after however long, and taking that to the bank and putting that in and whatever. And Michael certainly talked to us about, some of those tips this week, and then not next week, but the show after that, he'll be back. But yeah, some great strategies. So to piggyback on what you said and tying it into Financial Literacy Awareness Month, my tip is it's multifaceted. And what I mean by that is, I said last week, and I will continue to reiterate for the rest of the month, that finances is one of the major reasons why people get divorced.
Absolutely.
And in that, though, one of the things that came up for me this week in doing this work that we love to do so much is that people don't know who they're married to. They don't even know who they're dating, particularly within the context of finances. They're so busy, looking at the superficial that they're not having some of those appropriate conversations that they need to have. And what came up, Ronnie, was Proverbs 18:22. He that finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains the favor from the Lord. Well, is that applicable if she's blowing all the money? Is that applicable if he's blowing all the money? Is that applicable if there's no, to your point, financial discipline? And what tied into that for me is that saying that I literally just had this aha moment this morning, and you've probably heard it stated. Oh, he thinks he's God's gift to women. Oh, she thinks she's God's gift to men. And it's presented in such a negative light, right? But in actuality, when you end up with, and again, you know, our disclaimer is we're not pushing our spiritual beliefs or anything like that on anybody, but we do speak from a spiritual frame of a Christian frame of reference, because that's just who we are. But regardless of what your frame of reference is, if you are with the person that you believe that you were purposed and predestined to be with, then isn't it reasonable to say that they are a gift?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think so. I think that if you genuinely and sincerely are with the person that you believe that you were purposed and predestined to be with, then I think that they are in actuality a gift. And why are you not treating them as such? Why are you not holding them in that regard and in that honor? And to take that one step further, what I've found myself saying over the past couple of weeks more frequently to couples that I work with is, particularly those that aren't married yet when I'm doing premarital counseling, is that you have to stop looking at everything that you like and love about the person. Stop doing that. Those are the Captain Obvious things. Start looking at the things that you don't like about the person. Say, for example, their spending habits, their lack of discipline, their disinterest in doing anything other than living paycheck to paycheck, and decide, can you live with that? Or their spending habits, is their lack of financial discipline going to create a grounds for divorce 5 years down the road, or a year down the road, or 2 years down the road? You have to be willing to do the deep dive and the self-exploration to, one, determine, are your financial habits where they need to be in order for you all to live a prosperous life? And is the person, okay, so, and I'm not going to go off on a tangent about this, but there's definitely some things that are deal breakers, right? Or should be, in my opinion. If you all know, I spent many years with someone battling substance abuse. You're not going to have no money if you married to somebody with a substance abuse problem. You are not going to have any money. You know why? Because the drugs and the alcohol or gambling or whatever the addiction is going to keep you financially depleted. Absolutely. Period, point blank, plain and simple. So for me, one of my prerequisites is, you got addiction? I can't fool with you. That's me. Don't judge me. Don't criticize me. That's my choice. And you have to decide for you what you can and cannot live with or without. What's the deal breaker for you? And when you're willing to do that and stop dealing with a piece of woman is better than no woman at all, or a piece of man is better than no man at all, you might find yourself in situations and circumstances that are significantly healthier and more fulfilling and lasting relationships that don't deplete your mental wellness. Because trust and believe, misery, strife, aggravation, frustration, and the stress that is associated with financial woes is enough to drive you daggone crazy. And you will find your way to Ronnie's office or to my office or to the jail cell, and all of those other disastrous ways that those things come up in life. So that's my holistic tip when it comes to finances and mental health. You have to be deliberate and intentional in having those appropriate conversations in the beginning before you start having these discussions about having children and marriage and everything else. You need to know what a person's financial standing is. That doesn't make you a gold digger. That makes you responsible. It doesn't make you, oh, well, he just with her because she paid. No, it makes you responsible, because finances rule the daggone world. And if you don't have any money, you talk about something that's going to deteriorate your mental health fast, quick, and in a hurry, why do you think there's so much mental illness in impoverished communities? Because there's stress and strain that can cause fracture on the psyche that's related to finances.
Absolutely. And I like how you worded that. And while you were talking, it made me think, and when we think of relationships, it should be your significant other who you're going to be in a partnership with. They should be what we would consider an asset and not a liability. Your marriage or your partnership should be passive income, where you make, significant investments, you structure everything right. And then, maybe here and there, you go back and check it and retweak it, but it's always rewarding you every single month. You're getting profit off of every single month. It's appreciating every single month, not depreciating. And another thing where you were talking about that made me think, and this is something that I'm pretty sure we'll get into as well, is when you have people who come from, let's say they don't come from money, and then they finally get some, and that fear of missing out, or all that time growing up that they didn't have money, so now that they have it, I always tell people, money just make whatever spending habits you had before, the more money you get, it's just going to be exacerbated 10 times more. So if you can't budget or handle $100 or $1,000, you definitely won't be able to budget or handle $10,000, $100,000, $1 million.
That's right.
All because of your lack of discipline and your fear of missing out, and that anxiety of, well, when will I ever get this amount of money again? Those are cycles. Those are traumatic bonds that have to be broken in order for you and your partner to really. It's the gift that keeps on giving. You all should be assets to each other and not liabilities. So that was a great point, Dr. Pitts. And last year we saw where a lot of relationships, when the world shut down, a lot of relationships were ended because of financial mishaps and things like that, because a lot of people unfortunately did not prepare. I would have never guessed in a million years that the world would have shut down last year on March 11th. Would have never guessed that. But I always hear people say, like, have a rainy day fund, have a rainy day fund. Like, you never know what's going to happen. The average American doesn't even have $500 in their savings account for an emergency. Most emergencies nowadays cost well over $1,000 if it's a house issue, if it's a car issue, or something like that. So, if anything, if this pandemic has taught us anything financial wise, is have a rainy day fund. Have at least, at the bare minimum, a month of your expenses saved up. And and that's something that you and your partner will have to discuss and really come to an agreement with, because it shouldn't be, well, one person's controlling the entire budget and you have no say in it. It should be a mutual thing. If you're going to be in a marriage, what is y'all's mutual financial goals? What are y'all working towards? Are y'all working towards a house, a brand new car, whatever the case may be? Those are things that you have to talk about before you get married. That's why I always tell people it is important to seek marriage counseling, or to have somebody that you can talk to, a support system of other married couples who have their finances together, who have their communication established, that can help and guide you get to that same place in your marriage or in your relationship. So that was great advice, Dr. Pitts. Thank you for that.
I want to just add something onto that, Ronnie, because you said something that's been coming up that, like I said, in the couples that I'm doing pre-marital counseling for, and it ties into, I believe, some of the information that Mike is going to share today in a couple of weeks, is that people need to be able to recognize what their strengths are. But let's face it, some people just don't know how to manage money, right? So what I've been advising my clients to do is that, since you all know, look, you aren't even married yet, and the finances is a point of contention for you. So why not bring in that neutral middle person that can educate you both? Because, well, Dr. Pitts, I got this, and I know. Okay, well, then why are we arguing? If you have all the answers, you're sitting here telling me that you all are having this, and the other issue, trouble, and all these problems. Why not bring in a neutral party other than me that is a financial expert that can help you to get your financial house in order? So as you're bringing your houses together in preparation for marriage, you've already been proactive in putting a measure in place to help you to properly navigate finances and make the commitment that you're going to be deliberate and intentional. I say that 1,000 times a week, Ronnie, that you're going to be deliberate and intentional in honoring the agreement and understanding that life happens and things change, and you can make the necessary adjustments under the guidance of the financial expert that you decide to entrust your finances to. And doing that doesn't mean that you no longer doesn't mean that you no longer have say so. It just means that you're allowing this expert to contribute to your guidance. You're allowing the financial
Absolutely.
expert to serve as your financial GPS, if you will, to help you to stay on track to where you want to get. So that's what we have in there. We've got one more thing that we want to touch on, and then we are going to introduce our awesome and amazing guest, Mike Profit, and then we will jump in and start presenting all of this wealth of knowledge that he has to share with our audience today. So Ronnie, you want to
So unfortunately, let me make sure I get the day right. I believe this was Thursday. Yep. So unfortunately, you know, as much as we want to get into this financial literacy conversation, we do want to address the unfortunate news that, you know, hit nationwide on Thursday. Former San Francisco 49ers player Philip Adams, who was 32, died by suicide after he shot Dr. Robert Leslie of 70 years old, his wife Barbara Leslie, who was 69, and their grandchildren Ada Leslie, Noah Leslie, and James Lewis. There really wasn't a lot of details surrounding what led up to this traumatic and unfortunate incident. Yeah. I did see a report yesterday that said that I believe the family of Philip Adams is having his brain sent off to a lab to, you know, check for CTE and things like that. Mm-hmm. And let's be real, you know, is CTE very real? Absolutely. You know, when they did the study back in 2016 and 2017 on concussions and things like that, yeah, they found somebody as young as the age of 11 to have early signs of CTE at the age of 11. So am I going to sit here and say that at 32 years of age, that he could have very well had CTE? Yeah, he could have. I was reading an article where it reported that in 2012, he had missed several games for having 2 reported concussions. But, you know, like we've talked about, especially in the early episodes of our show, I'm somebody who, you know, I've had well over, you know, what they would consider, you know, as far as concussions, I've had well over 30 of them in my 14-year playing career, but I had 3 that put me in the hospital. Yeah. So if he had 2 that were reported, who's to say he didn't have countless many more over his career? Yes. And this is an HBCU graduate. He graduated from South Carolina State in 2010, was drafted in the 7th round by the San Francisco 49ers, had a gruesome injury his rookie year where he had a compound fracture of his ankle. So it was just disheartening to see this, that a 32-year-old man who, like I said, we don't know what was going on in his life up until this time. We don't know who was in his circle, what was going on through his mind and things like that. Did he feel helpless? Did he feel like his transition from the pros to just being, you know, an everyday citizen, how hard that transition was for him? And, you know, that's why we preach. That's why Dr. Pitts preaches every single day and every single week on this show, the importance of these conversations that we have. Yes. Because it very well could have been a situation where if Philip Adams had somebody to talk to about his transition from sports or the trauma that he experienced in the NFL and in college and maybe in his life, we don't know what his childhood was like. We don't know what his adolescent years was like. We don't know what his young adult years was like. We may never know if those details never come out. However, you know, it's just disheartening to see that there wasn't enough time, or there was nothing that could have been done to prevent this, you know, tragic, unfortunate incident. And it's unfortunate that 5 people had to lose their lives. And then this gentleman took his own life afterwards. Yeah. You know, it was really sad to hear, really sad to see. And that's why we do this show. That's why me and Dr. Pitts dedicate our lives to spreading awareness, not only for just everyday people for mental health issues, specifically student athletes. Student athletes deserve to have a voice about their mental health issues and challenges and struggles, because they're people too. Yes. You know, before they're a football player, before they're a basketball player, before they're a baseball player, before whatever uniform they put on, they are a person first. Yes. And their feelings, their emotions, their upbringing, how the support system that they have or don't have, that is just as important as the jersey they put on and the field they walk out on too. That's why we have these conversations every single week. for those who feel like they don't. We give a voice to the voiceless. We bring awareness to people who might be naive or ignorant to the challenges and the struggles of student athletes.
Yes.
You know, I'm tired of hearing people say it's a privilege to be a student athlete. No, it's not. That's an earned right. You earn that right to be a student athlete, just like you earn the right to be a professional athlete. You earn the right to be on your high school team. You earn the right to be on your little league team because you put the work in, you put the time, the dedication, the everyday skills to getting 1% better every single day. You've earned that. That's like saying it's a privilege to go get a job after you've dedicated your entire time to going to school, getting education, getting good grades, networking, putting right people in your corner. Oh, well, this is a privilege that you got this job. No, I earned this. I earned this job. And when you earn something and it's taken away from you or it's cut short tragically, that's a lot to take in. That's a lot to deal with. And, you know, like I said, it's just disheartening that, you know, Phillip Adams, whatever led him down this path, whatever demons he was battling, whatever mental health challenges or struggles that he was having, whether or not they were caused by football. We're not going to sit here and just say football was the cause of this. Could it have been a major factor? Absolutely. And I'm not dismissing that concussions are serious or real. They are real. Even for me as myself, I'm 28 years old. And, you know, as far as I know, my brain is stable, functioning and things like that. But don't get me wrong for 1 second. I don't think about, well, what happens when I get to my 50s and 60s? Is the things I did from the age of 8 to 22 going to impact me when I'm 62, 72, God willing, I see that? I don't know. Is that something I think about? Absolutely. Am I doing what I can do now at 28 to prepare for that, right? You know, when that gets here? Absolutely. But some people, they just don't feel like they ever get to that chance or get to that opportunity to even have those conversations with themselves or with somebody else. So this was just truly disheartening to hear and see. You know, our prayers and thoughts and condolences go out to the Leslie family, you know, and even to the Adams family. You know, I don't like to judge, and as heinous as this was, I don't want to judge because we just don't know the details. It's just an unfortunate event that he felt like he had to do this and eventually take his own life as well. So, you know, our thoughts and condolences go out to the Leslie family. You know, what an unfortunate event, what an unfortunate thing that, you know, very well could have been prevented. We might not never know, but for those who are student athletes, former professional athletes who are listening or have been exposed to this podcast, we are here to help. Our shoulders are strong. Trust me. Me and Dr. Pitt's shoulders are strong. We are here for you. You know, even if you just need somebody to listen to and don't even want to answer in return, we are here to let you vent, process, express yourself, be yourself. We are here for you. So, you know, very unfortunate event. Sorry that this had to happen to the Leslie family and the Adams family. Condolences go out to them. Dr. Pitts, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to add very, very quickly that, you know, one of the articles I read was actually a statement from his father. And, you know, his father was quoted as saying that football messed him up. And like you said, we don't know. We don't know all the details. But you've heard me say before on this show that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And what's clear to me, for a person to, regardless of who or what is to blame, for a person to reach that state of helplessness and hopelessness, to me, it suggests that somewhere along the line, a support system failed him. And I think that that is just absolutely heartbreaking that 6 people are gone now. And so senselessly, so needlessly, because, you know, granted, intervention doesn't always prevent everything, but goodness gracious, it can certainly help. And I think that this is a textbook example of how somewhere along the lines something failed, and as a result of it, now 6 people are gone. The other thing that I did want to acknowledge very quick before I share Mike's bio is condolences to DMX's family. And to the music industry. You know, I know his music wasn't for everybody. I personally loved him. His music is definitely on our playlist.
He is an anointed man. He was definitely a prophet, not like Mike Prophet's last name, but, you know, the spiritual prophet, you know, and yes, definitely condolences.
It's just an extraordinary being who, as we know, we don't know. We know what the media said, but We know that there was a history. He had acknowledged publicly his struggle with substance abuse, and the toll that that takes on the mind and what leads people down that path. So yet again, tying it into mental illness and just how it just has such a horrific impact on all those connected. So condolences to his family as well. Well, now it's time to talk about money. Hey, Mike, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. I just love this man.
We need a round of applause button.
Okay, right now.
Stop, you're embarrassing me.
Yeah, no. But look, so Mike Profit, I will tell you that I giggled when I first met him some years ago because I was like, "Is your last name really Profit?" Like, no pun intended.
I said the same thing.
It just tickled me. I'm like, but how fitting. Totally how fitting. So Mike Profit, born and raised in Canada. Mike moved to Delaware in 2001 for the warm winters. And is still close enough to drive back to visit family and friends in the summer. Mike earned his undergrad in business at Wesley College in Dover, Delaware, right around the corner from Del State, summa cum laude, and continued on there to earn his MBA. Mike chose to make a career change as a financial planner after being caught up in a downsizing with a global organization in 2016. Mike believes that most people are not properly taught what they should be doing with their money once they start earning it. Because they don't know what they don't know, they often miss areas and don't form the good habits needed to set themselves up for financial independence and freedom. He's made it his mission to help educate others that may not be as financially savvy as some on the things they should be thinking about to help them set up for success. Because the world of finances can be extremely broad, complex, and daunting for many, he works with people in a way that breaks things down and makes them easy to understand. Yes, he does. Once Mike understands a person's financial situation and future goals, and oh, by the way, he doesn't judge or criticize, he can identify and explain options to allow the person to make an educated decision that's the best fit for them and their financial plan. Mike Profit, welcome to House Talk Pregame.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. It's great to meet Ronnie as well. And
likewise, sir. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to the next hour. So what do we got? I mean, I love Ronnie's put 5 on it idea. I may feel that if you don't mind. Hey, you know, to me, it's whatever works, right? So
I stole it from somebody, so you know, hey, you know.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Man, so you know, like we said, thank you for taking the time out on your busy Saturday. We know you're a busy man, and you know, we know you have a wealth of knowledge regarding financial literacy and helping people establish financial goals and financial freedom. So like I said, we're so glad to have you on the show today. Dr. Pitts has told me, outside of just your bio, she's told me so many great things about you. And, we've had several conversations, before as well. So super excited to pick your brain. And, we hope people, leave us questions or whatnot to ask you as well. Because we know this is important. And, not all the time do you get, a great financial advisor to, give just what we would consider free gems in our culture, just free gems of, how to save money, how to, have savings goals and things like that. So definitely looking forward to this conversation. So I just want to ask you real quick, what got you into wanting to be a financial planner and a financial advisor? What got you into this world?
Yeah. So, you're always wondering why people do what they do, right? And it's often, I didn't think, as a little kid, I'm not thinking I want to be a financial planner when I grow up. I didn't know what one was. But as Dr. Pitts mentioned in my bio there, I worked for a global organization, and I had not worked for one before. Up in Canada, I had worked for small business owners and things of that nature. But they wanted to, this global company wanted to specialize and grow their niche market. And they said my name kept coming up. I didn't even know who they were. So I looked them up online. I said, wow, they're a pretty big deal. They're global and very well known in Delaware. And so I thought, what the heck? I'm single. I'm tired of these cold winters up here in Canada. Let's go check it out. I love a challenge and I love, adventure. So I thought, hey, I'll give it a shot, see how it goes. So I looked online. I found an apartment. I rented everything in the apartment right down to the silverware, just in case it didn't work out. I'm bailing. I'm heading back north, right? So I got here in the spring. It was May of 2001. Didn't know a single person. And then unfortunately 9/11 hit, right? And I'm thinking, wow, this is huge. Everybody knows exactly where they were at 9/11. It was a devastating effect on the whole country and the world, really. And, not being sure if I should stick around or not. Obviously I did. But I met a great Delawarean girl, married her. She had a daughter. We now have 3 grandchildren. So
awesome.
Working for a number of years with the global company, there was a bunch of downsizings, which happens in large companies. And I started with a team of 22 people. I grew the business 10x, but it's still in global America, corporate America. It doesn't matter so much your performance all the time. It's a number. So they're trying to, make the company attractive to sell. I end up getting caught up on that downsizing. And I was glad they did it in mid-August because most companies lay you off for Christmas, which is
right.
Not the best time. I know it's an accounting thing, but it's just a horrible time for that to happen to you and your family. So I got to enjoy my pool for the first time because I had not had any time to do that before. I got to reflect, and my wife said a couple of things. She said, one, we're not moving, which in my role at the time, I had about 5 of my customers want to hire me immediately once they found out I was leaving my company, which was flattering, but they were stationed in different parts of the country. So my wife said, we're not moving because we have grandkids close by. And 2, you're not traveling all the time. So I was traveling a lot. And I thought, wow, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do now. So after
happy wife, happy life, Mike. Happy wife, happy life.
Exactly. So I said, hey, not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but it definitely sounds like a career change. So in my former role, I was helping business owners grow their bottom line with our products and services. So when I left the global company, they asked me things like, so, you can go on Cobra for your health benefits. I said, what's that? They said, what are you going to do with your 401k? Because it's an automatic deduction out of my paycheck, it's on autopilot. I don't know. So, I've got all these questions that I had no answers for, and I didn't know what to do. So I thought, I can't be the only one dealing with this. This happens all the time. Fortunately, I was a pretty good saver. I had always formed good habits over time. I wasn't born with good habits, but help people with their finances. And I thought, well, let's look into this professionally. I thought, hey, if nothing else, I can help myself and my family. I'm going to learn all these different things, and at the bare minimum, help myself and my family. But if things go well, I'm going to help a bunch of other people as well. So, I've said this to Dr. Pitts before when we've met before, and I may have said it to you, Ronnie, but I always think, in life as an adult, we've got 2 things that are top of the list for stressors. One is our health, which we've seen a lot over the past year, right? With everything going on. Yeah. And the second one is finances. And those are usually people's big concerns. When it comes to things in life that can disrupt us. So I want to be able to help people, and doing that as a holistic financial planner has allowed me to do that.
Awesome. So Mike, me and Dr. Pitts during the week, we had discussed some possible questions that we wanted you to elaborate on during the show for this week and when you come back at the end of the month. So I'll dive right in. So my first question is, ideally, at what age should somebody start saving and or investing or when should the conversation be broached? If you're a parent, and you've already established yourself. So it's kind of a two-part question. As an adult, at what age should you start saving or investing? And as a parent, what age should you start broaching these conversations with your children?
Yeah, great question. So the first, I think it's yesterday. Start yesterday. You got to start now. You can't start too soon. Why? Because of the knowledge that you have to learn along the way. There's a lot to it. Not necessarily saying that you have to learn a whole lot. I recommend learning the basics enough to make educated decisions. But when it comes to savings, we're looking at things like compounded money. So that's money growing on top of money, interest, those types of things. So planning for retirement, I don't know what the world's going to look like in the country for retirement as we go on. And I say that because historically, my grandparents, for example, they worked for the same company for their whole careers. They retired. They had a pension that would pay for the bills and everything during retirement. Well, pensions are pretty much gone these days. I think, the amount of employers that offer a pension is in the teens. I don't know if it's 15, 18%, whatever, but it's nowhere near the, 90% or whatever it used to be. So saving for retirement is a huge thing. And the earlier you start, the better, because it can grow over time. And that's what you want to do. So as an adult, starting to save, whether it's near-term goals, midterm goals, or long-term goals, start as soon as you can. When it comes to parents teaching their kids, I've actually been looking at, my company has some seminars, templates boiled, in a can seminars, which are fantastic. And I was noticing a couple that start as early as age 5 to start teaching kids. And I think once they start to understand money at all, it's a great time to start teaching them, because if they're going to grow up that way, because I would imagine, Dr. Pitts and you, Ronnie, growing up, we weren't taught at a very young age with money. Maybe we got some, maybe we got some money for a holiday. Maybe we got some birthday money, something like that. And we go off and we spend it, right? So maybe that's a good time to start teaching people, teaching their kids, hey, this is money. This is how it works. We exchange it for something else as a value, and just start very basic from there, and just kind of move them up to the next level as they get older.
I started with Andre when he was 5, and something as simple, and some might think that it's, elementary, but he had 3 jars. He had a spendings jar, a savings jar, and a tithing jar. He literally was taught the importance of tithing and sowing into the work of God at a very, very, very young age, and keeping that system going. Now he's grown, so you've talked to him.
Look, my first lesson of money was, asking my parents, hey, can we stop at McDonald's on the way home? Do you have McDonald's money?
Right. Yeah.
Look,
I learned
you need a job. What you need.
I learned at an early age, if you ain't got it, don't spend it. So, I've been waiting to flip that on my parents, asking them, can I take them somewhere? Do you got this type of money? I've been waiting on it. I haven't had that opportunity yet. But the moment it approaches, I will capitalize on it.
Yeah. But as a child, right? As a child, you don't know. You see your parents or whatever, you stop, you get something, off you go. So
you just feel like money literally grows on trees at that age. And that's something I also heard. Well, money doesn't grow on trees, or well, we got it, we just ain't got it. So those are some of my early money lessons and things like that.
One more thing on the note with the kids that I just wanted to make folks aware of, and Mike, with you being right there in Delaware, you're probably familiar because the regional office is right in Wilmington as you're going over by the train station. Junior Achievement has a phenomenal financial literacy program that the schools can actually sign up for. And you can have, back when I was a volunteer for Junior Achievement for several years, and I used to go into the schools and teach part of that financial literacy program. But since they built, they call it Money Town or something like that. It's like when you go into the Junior Achievement location, they there's a whole part of that regional office right there in Wilmington, Delaware, that they've literally converted it into a town. And everything that it's awesome. It's mock stuff and the bank and jobs and the whole 9 yards. And the kids are actually they take field trips from their schools to that facility, and they participate for how many ever hours on that field trip in all things financial literacy. It is a phenomenal, phenomenal program. For those that are listening, if you aren't familiar with that program, look it up, because junior achievement is all over the country. But they have that program. You can get that program into your schools to start having that literacy taught. You can take the kids on trips to the respective facilities to learn that. They can have volunteers come in to start creating that space, because to you all's point, I feel like this conversation is something that absolutely positively has to happen. The moment that a child is able to speak and ask for something, you should be teaching them financial literacy.
Absolutely. And that's a great resource as well. I'm going to see if that's down here in Virginia. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm definitely going to look that up. Yeah. So Mike, I'll give full disclosure here. When I had left my parents' house at the age of 22, I would say, while me and my parents necessarily didn't have a lot of financial conversations, I did observe a lot. And one of the things I always saw was, my mom always had a budget each month of how much money was coming in and where it was going. She always had a savings, and she made sure that she always put money in her savings. So these were things that I did see as I was growing up. However, living on your own, when I graduated college and whatnot, at that time, I was working 4 jobs at the time when I first graduated, before I found a job in the counseling field that could, supply 4 jobs worth of money into one. But even then, when I got out on my own and stuff like that, and me and my wife at the my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we had moved in together. My spending habits were all over the place. I always tell people, I have really had, really good credit coming out of college. Even I one of the things that my mom did that I was appreciative of when I was a freshman in college, I wanted rims on my truck. I wanted 22-inch rims. I had never had a loan before. I didn't have the money to save up to get the rims. So I told my mom, I was like, well, I want to start building my credit up. How do I do that? So went to the bank with her, told them what I wanted, got a $3,000 loan with her co-signing on it. And I think my payment at the time was like $115 a month, which, wasn't bad. And paid it off within, I think, maybe a year and a half, 2 years. Credit shot up. Then I said, well, she was like, well, in order for your credit to stay going up, you might want to look at getting another loan. Is there anything else you want? And I can't remember what. I think I got a stereo system for my truck at the time. So went back, got another loan. Boom, credit shot up. Now, when I got on my own, I did everything in my power to bring that credit score all the way down. And so I never forget it. I went and got my first credit card, and I'll never forget it. I told the lady at the bank, I want this credit card for emergency purposes only. I'm not touching it. I'm not activating it. I don't even want to remember that I have it. So got a $5,000 credit card. First one ever in my life. Mike, you really gonna shake your head when I tell you this, but I got that credit card in October of 2016. By May of 2017, I had maxed it out. And I owe that all to Wawa gas station, Chipotle, and Qdoba. Because when I was out on the road working, seeing clients, I should have been sponsored by those 3, because that's where all my money went.
Oh my God.
So, when it came to a head, and, me and my wife, we had a budget, and, we were doing really well for ourselves. We never had, one of the things I can always credit me and my wife on is we never fell behind on bills. At the end of the day, bills were going to get paid. No matter how much I did to, make that harder, bills are going to get paid. It all came to a head in 2019. My wife's car transmission went bad, and we didn't have warranty on it, and we still had $8,000 left on it. So, and by that point, because I had maxed out a credit card and, was just making minimum payments on it, taking forever to try and get it paid off, it affected my credit. And we also had other things on credit as well. So it was a really humbling moment because we had to roll over that $8,000 of negative equity into a brand new vehicle. And that was a gut punch right there because, you know, if it had happened, it happened in 2019. If it had happened in 2020, we might have been having a completely different conversation. But it was a humbling moment. And it really taught us that, you know, look, we have to get out of this constant cycle of putting ourselves in unnecessary debt. So I say all that to say, you know, share with us some of the common financial management mistakes or horror stories that you've had clients come and tell you about, you know, how they've handled their finances. And even if you have any of your own personal experience with that.
Yeah. And thanks for opening up there, Ronnie. That's it's not uncommon. And I hear things like that all the time. I myself, my personal thing was, you know, getting out into the working world as a young man, living paycheck to paycheck all the time. And then, you know, getting to that point, fortunately, I didn't get into a lot of debt, but still just waiting for that next paycheck. That's not a pleasant feeling. I mean, it's like you can't do anything. You know, your buddies are going out and having fun. It's like, I got to wait for my paycheck. And I just got tired of doing that, quite frankly. And I said, you know what? I got to stop doing this. And so for me, what I did was I just kind of took a break of going out and having fun all the time and kind of stopped for like 6 months, 8 months, whatever it was, and just started saving that money. And then instead of going out all the time, I would go like a Friday night and I'd have a few beers with my buddies, and that was fine. That wasn't putting a big dent in my account, and I still had money left over, and I earned more the next week to pile it on top again. So then I started collecting and earning more money. So that was kind of where I turned that corner. It's just being disciplined, saying, hey, can't have fun all the time. You know, I want to do something about this. So that was my personal turning point. Other things that I see people do, it's really just bad habits. Whether it's like you, whether they had parents that were trying to teach them good habits, and then we're in our 20s, you know, a lot of things can happen, and those good habits can go out the window. But just having, you know, bad habits of simply don't spend more than you make, right? So easy. Like I was saying, I was getting tired of doing that. You just don't spend more than you make. So getting over that. What else? Racking up debt, like you said. Credit cards is a huge one. That is probably the most common one. I hear it all the time. And people are saying, you know, but I need credit, you know, and I say, I understand that, but you got to do it in a disciplined way. You know, here's how to do that. Get a credit card. I'm all for getting a credit card, but put a low limit on it, $500. You know, get gas with it and make sure you pay it off every month. Form that habit. Make sure you got a zero balance at the end of the month, right? And then you're going to get that nice credit rating. You're going to form that good habit. What's another one? A lot of times I hear, you know, people going to college. I want to go to this college. Well, this college is crazy expensive. You know, what's your degree going to be in? Is it going to be worth it for you? You know, if you're spending a ton of money and getting a degree that you'll never use, it's not going to help you in the working world, you know, is it worth racking up all that debt?
Ronnie says that all the time. He says it all the time. Like literally almost every week he says that.
Yeah. So for me, for an example, you know, I've got the designation of an MBA, a master's in business, right? I can put that designation at the end of my name. Looks fancy and everything, but how does it really help me? And I got to think about that, you know, because the way I look at it, people say, well, you got an MBA. What does that mean to you? And I said, well, it could mean more than each letter costs $33,000.
Say that, right? Oh my goodness. Yes.
You know, but is it worth it? Is it worth that 33 grand a letter to get that, you know, education? If I'm going to be an artist, you know, I don't know. But just thinking about your education, the money you're going to put out towards it, think critically about that. Is it really worth it? Do you need to go to that fancy school to land that career that you want to get? Maybe not, you know, in-state versus out of state, all of those things. You know, is mom and dad paying for it? Have I got to pay for it? You know, you got to think about those things.
Absolutely. And that's a great, go ahead, Dr. Pitts. I'm sorry.
I was just going to, a two-part follow-up. So Mike, I find myself saying to people a lot of times, you know, with what you said about the credit card debt, I'm blessed and fortunate in that, yes, I've had credit card debt, but I was never one of those people that thought that I had to have 30 credit cards. Like I've just never understood that. And what I told Andre is, I said, if you have a major credit card, you know, whether whatever, just for illustration purposes, whether it's an American Express, a MasterCard, a Visa, whatever it is you choose that you're going to have, the major credit cards will pay for anything else under the sun that you need. Why do you need 20 department store credit cards? Why do you need a credit card from Shell or Sunoco or X? Like, why do you need that? If you have a major credit card, that major credit card will take care of any of those other things that you need. Look, what's the commercial say? Where the Visa and MasterCard logo is accepted.
Yeah.
But people get caught up. And then the other thing that I wanted to add, it, as you were talking, it reminded me of something, and I think I said to you before, Ronnie, my great aunt said that one of the biggest financial traps that people fall into, and she was talking about Black people when she said it, she said one of the biggest problems that our people fall into is they buy what they want and they beg for what they need. And that has just always stayed with me because it's a powerful truth. Hence why, and Ronnie and I have talked about it, you know, you can drive through the projects and see $2,000 rims, but you're living in the projects. You can go into someone's home at the projects and they got a 75-inch TV taking up the whole wall in the living room. And
they got roaches crawling behind the TV.
Yeah, you know, like it's just priorities. Priorities are just off. There's the discipline is just not there. And it's perpetual, and it speaks to multi-generational systemic poverty and lack. And all folks talk about is what total improper English, what they ain't got. I ain't got no money. We ain't got no money. Mm-hmm. That's too expensive. I get so sick of hearing it, people talking about what they can't afford. And just before you go on, Mike, I wanted to share something real quick that you know, Ronnie and I were mental health practitioners. So for us, everything starts with the mind. And I really believe that poverty is a mindset. I believe that when your mind is impoverished, your life is going to manifest it. And, you know, constantly reading and learning. But something that came to me earlier in the week with one of the journals that I get information from, it says, do you know why so many people struggle financially despite their hard work, their positive thinking, and their burning itch to triumph in life? Sadly, this is because their conscious thoughts are not running the show. It's their subconscious beliefs that are in charge. And what's worse is that these thoughts are usually not in tune with the abundance frequency that they want to invite in their lives. That's why it's so important to reprogram your subconscious mind right away. And I really do. How many times have we heard people say in our lives, mind over matter, mind over matter, mind over matter? You can think yourself into and out of virtually anything. And it's like, if you don't just correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, you know, we have that report. Tell me, like, Lauren, that's wrong. I believe that we have the ability to attract and repel based upon how we think. And if your mindset is always focused on what you don't have and focused on your needs rather than your assets, and focused on your lack rather than your abundance, and focused on your deficits, it manifests. It absolutely positively manifests. And I believe mentally it creates a barrier for anybody being open and receptive to this. You know, it's like, you know, I think about, there's not a single solitary, with the exception of my wealthy friends, with the exception of the family members that I have that are already in that wealthy and abundant place as far as the zeros in the bank account. Everybody that I know personally and professionally is talking about money. Money, 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 money. What they don't have. But when you ask them, if they are speaking to someone like you, if you ask them if they're educating themselves about financial things, no, but they're watching all the latest reality shows.
I agree 100%. I think it's all about mindset. And that's whether it's finances or many other areas of your life. I've been studying that stuff now for a handful of years, maybe.
Yeah.
And really diving deep into it because I've seen results in my life that have been very positive.
Mm-hmm.
So having that positive mindset versus, a negative mindset, you hear about the law of attraction, which, is what you're talking about a bit. That's what so instead of thinking what I don't have, be grateful for what you do have.
Yes.
Have a vision of what you desire and connect with having that.
Yep.
And work towards it. Take those steps to get there. Don't wallow in what you don't have and all about lack, because that's what you attract. It's more of it.
Yep. So, and I think both of y'all made great points about that, especially for those who are living in low socioeconomic areas and those who are considered on the poverty line. And I think that applies to people who are also above the poverty line, upper middle class, and upper class as well. When we talk about society norms and things like that. And Mike, I'm pretty sure you have a lot of, people in their early 20s and mid 20s who kind of fall into this trap of, what we consider keeping up with the Joneses, where, society tells you that, graduate high school, go to college, get anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000 worth of college debt, get this shiny little piece of paper when you walk across the stage, go get you a brand new car that you can't afford yet. If you got a significant other, go get you a townhouse or a house or something like that. So now, before you even the age of 25 and can legally rent a car, you almost got $500,000 worth of debt. And now you're sitting there pointing at everybody else. Well, they told me this is what I was supposed to do, or that person said I should do this. And now they come into your office crying or boo-hooing like, well, Mike, save me, help me out. And, to both of y'all's point, that's definitely a poor mindset, a poor man's mindset to have, and also poor discipline in your mindset as well. So I think, definitely both of y'all made great points about that. Poverty definitely is a mindset. And if you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and especially in a world now where social media rules everything, everybody, makes everything a competition or a contest or a judging thing. Well, I want what they got, or, this person on Instagram is flexing all this, or this person on Facebook got all that. And, we fall into this trap of seeing what everybody else has. And in both of y'all's point, we're not even grateful for the things we even have. I always tell people a lot of the problems that we have in this country are first world problems, and let's be honest, because as much trouble and strife and trauma and negativity that this country has to offer, let's be real, this is probably one of the greatest countries to live in as far as, being able to get to financial freedom and having a say-so in how you can, change your family's fortune and stuff like that through finances, where in other countries, you might make 10, 15 cents a day and you're supposed to make that work for your entire family. They want everybody out there to be like Jesus and feed 5,000 people with 2 pieces of fish and a loaf of bread. So while a lot of while poverty is high over here and things like that, we have first world problems that we just, we always point at what we don't have, and instead of being grateful for what we do have. So I'm glad both of y'all made that point. Mike, I want to transition a little bit, from, common mistakes and things that you've seen so far in your career to, okay, somebody has made the decision, them and their wife or them and their husband or significant other, or even them themselves have said, you know what, I want to take control of my finances. I want to add more discipline to my finances. I want financial freedom. So what are some of the most effective strategies for someone how to start saving money or how to save money?
Yeah, great question, Laurie. So, first of all, if I meet somebody like that, I say kudos to you for making that change and wanting to make that change. Like I mentioned, my own personal story, putting my foot down, saying I've had enough of this, I need to make a change, is, first, understanding what your budget is, putting a budget together is so important. Mm-hmm. A lot of times people, you get your paycheck and money's going out, you got bills here and there. You kind of got an idea maybe, but you're not kind of watching every penny. And I think it's very important to do that. And I'm not saying all the time, but when you're making that change, get a budget. You can find a template online, Google it, whatever. There's a ton of easy ways to do it. But just start keeping track of everything coming out, everything coming in. And, you've got your fixed expenses. That's the bills that you got to pay. Make sure you're paying those, and whatever's left, pay yourself. Pay yourself. So important. Put it into savings. And make it a certain percentage. Start out small. I don't care, 5%, 10%. Start out small till you get in the habit of doing that. And the rest can be discretionary, right? The fun money, going out to McDonald's, doing whatever. But just start forming that habit and really understanding where your finances are is really eye-opening.
Can I chime in on that?
Absolutely.
Another disclaimer, like, we're not promoting or advertising anything, but one of the things that Eric and I do is that Experian, which for folks who may not know, that's one of the major credit bureaus. Experian actually has a tool that is a part of their credit monitoring, where they will, because you can link your bank accounts that you use to pay your bills to that tool within that plan. I think we pay like $9.95 a month or something like that. Like, it's nothing in comparison. But what it does is it literally tracks how your money is being spent. And then every month they send you a bar graph that tells you, based on what went in, what percentages are being allocated, just like you said, Mike, what percentages you're being allocated, are being allocated as far as your outflow goes. And it's really, really helpful because you can see it. You can see it ebbing and flowing over the month. Like, you can look at that bar chart and say, oh, that's where, I had health stuff going on and was having to go and pay all these copays because my medical expenses were up higher that month, or whatever the case may be. It's an accountability tool. It really is an accountability tool that is very, very helpful in helping us to maintain our financial discipline so that we're able to get some things accomplished that we want to get accomplished, short-term and long-term goals. So, but you don't have to go through, you don't have to use that. It could be there's tools out there. I think, QuickBooks does it, and there's so many different ones that do it that I'm sure
credit unions will do it for you as well. Like, me and my wife, we have a credit union for our bank, and on the online app, you can go on there, and when they send your statement, it also have where to show you income versus expenses based off what we already have set up in our profile. So absolutely, there are a lot of, and like Dr. Pitt said, we're not being paid to promote any of these services. We're just bringing awareness to people.
Learned.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's those apps that'll take the residuals when you make a payment on something, right? And put it into something. What is it? Acorn,
Stash. Yep.
I mean, there's definitely tools out there.
So Mike, and I was thinking of this while you all were talking. So when somebody wants to come sit in your office, make an appointment with you and come tell you, say, hey, Mike, we want to start making, financial goals and things like that, whether they're short-term, intermediate, or long-term goals. How do you go about, or how does someone decide on what they're going to, make as their short-term, intermediate, or long-term goals? And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, you have an individual in their, mid to late 20s making, decent money. Let's just say average 60,000 a year, doing well for themselves and stuff like that. But they don't really have any assets, to their name. They got, maybe average debt, average student loan debt and stuff like that. So when you sit down with somebody and you start, planning out financial goals with them, what is your mindset as a financial advisor on, helping, your clients be objective about their goals and being realistic about their goals? Like, let's say an individual came in and said, well, I want to start saving for a $500,000 house, but I make $50,000 a year. Or, let's say they're making six figures and they want to, buy an expensive car or, something expensive, but they had their expenses for just their monthly, average, they're barely above water, as far as, having any money left over. So how does that work for you as a financial advisor when somebody comes in with not necessarily a strategic plan for their goals, but helping them formulate what should be the most important things for your financial goals and what can we work on long-term?
Yeah. So as Dr. Pitts pointed out, I don't judge or anything like that. I'm very open-minded, and you know, you need to be in my role. I see all kinds of things, which is another reason why I got into this career, is because it's so interesting. I love meeting people, and everyone is unique and individual in their own way. So it's not the same thing. You know, everybody I sit down with is different. So everybody has a different story. Everybody has different habits and beliefs and goals. So just understanding all of that, having an open conversation so I can kind of really get an idea of who they are, what they're looking to do, and talking through that. So if somebody's unrealistic, and probably the most common one that I get personally is younger people that say, yeah, I'm going to retire when I'm 50. Okay. I'd love to retire when I'm 52. That ship's already sailed on me, but you know, that's great. Most people want to retire earlier rather than later, right? But we need to do so that we have a good, you know, financial lifestyle. What's our lifestyle look like in retirement? Let's talk about that, right? Hey, if my lifestyle is going to cost me $100 or 100,000 a year, okay, that's great. You're making 50,000 a year now. How much are you going to have to put away so at age 50 you've got that nest egg you're going to need? And if that nest egg is the 100,000 a year, and just to keep math simple and not talk about inflation and all other stuff, but if you're retiring at 50 at 100,000 a year, and let's say, hey, people are living longer now more than ever. Let's say you're going to live to be 90. Well, that's 40 years of retirement. No income coming in from a job, right? Maybe there's some Social Security. If you're investing, right, maybe there's some investment money coming in. But I mean, that's a ton of money, right? That's $4 million. If you got $4 million,
that's real quick.
Right? So do you got $4 million sitting there at age 50 saved up, you know, and you know, by the time, you know, you do that. So the person often says, oh no, I'm nowhere near there. Okay. Well, let's start thinking about what's more realistic. Okay. Maybe we're retiring at 67, you know. Oh, I can't, there's no way I'm working 60s, maybe 60. Okay. Then here's how much you've got to save to reach that goal. So now they have an idea of, okay, now I've got a number. You know, what do I got to do that? Do I got to get a second job? Do I got to really advance in my career to make that income, to meet that? So that's the kind of conversations I have with them. Just help them understand and maybe do the math, like quick math like that, to say, oh, wow, sometimes that's really eye-opening, right? And gets them thinking in a different way. Oh, maybe it's not realistic.
And I'm glad you made that point. Because to your point earlier about, you know, jobs not having, you know, pensions or offering pensions and stuff like that. One of the things that, you know, I've had conversations with me and my wife have talked about, no offense to you all are aging gracefully. I just want to throw that out there. Y'all are aging gracefully. However, you know, when me and my wife get into what we would consider retirement age or in that ballpark, you know, realistically, I don't see Social Security being a thing that we could rely on by the time we will get to retirement age, or even be able to collect, you know, Social Security, just based off, you know, how the trends have been going with that, discussions that have been held around Social Security, where maybe after the year 2035, Social Security might just be a thing of the past. So, you know, I think, you know, to your point, you know, people who are living a lot longer nowadays, I think the average for men in this country is 78, and the average for women is around 79, 80. So even if you retire at, you know, the standard 65 or 67, that's still an additional 10 to 15 years possibly that you would have to be living off the income that you made from 18 to whenever you retired. So that is a great point. That's something that, you know, me and my wife have definitely thought about is, you know, well, we might not be able to rely on Social Security when we get older. So, you know, how are we going to be able to survive retirement? Because I'm one of them people too. I don't want to have to work until retirement age if I don't have to. You know, in a perfect world, I would love to be retired by 50. You know, that would be awesome. But for me, that's 22 years from now. So me personally, I'm thinking, what can I do in the next 22 years to make sure that's a reality? Where if I did, you know, God willing, I live to 90, I could survive those 40 years off of the money that I've already made. Dr. Pitts, I think you want to add in something as well,
yeah,
right?
I wanted to affirm what Mike said, you know, and what we said earlier is that he doesn't judge and he doesn't criticize. And I'm so thankful that I didn't come in with these crazy, unrealistic, expectations or goals or anything. I was totally transparent with him and told him, this is what it's been, this is where I am now, and this is where I ideally would like to be. And one of the things that I just respect and appreciate him about Mike so much is that he is just straight up. Like, he's not going to sugarcoat it. And he doesn't know this, I'm saying it now in front of the world. He's the reason why I ended up not going to law school, because when I came on board as one of his clients, one of the things that we were talking about is, I was in the process of, doing my packets and the whole 9 yards. And he said, okay, you already have all these degrees. You already have all this student loan debt. And oh, by the way, we're going to get you in to talk to the student loan specialist, because there's room here for some changes to occur. You're putting out way too much money in student loan payments. That money can be channeled elsewhere. And he had very specific conversations with me about the things that I need to do. Like, he just said, do you need to advance in your career more? So literally just taking his advice and following his direction, because I trust him and I trust his expertise, has made all the difference in the world in my financial house. Again, Grace, here's something that he doesn't know. One of the things that we talked about was my car. Well, I sold the Jaguar. I sold it. You know why? Because especially now, it was like, daggone it, he didn't even know there was going to be a freaking pandemic. So it's like, why am I paying for beautiful car? Beautiful. But why am I paying for this daggone car that's just sitting in the yard collecting dust, and I work from home? Y'all can have that. Sold the Jaguar. You can have it back. And when I get ready to buy another vehicle, because I do want another vehicle, I'll have that conversation with him. Do I lease? Do I buy? What do I do? Are you going to tell me no, don't get a vehicle? Like, can I have what I want? Can I get the BMW crossover M6? Is he going to say no? But I trust him. I trust him, and I know that he's going to tell me the truth. And here's the big word that is so critical when it comes to Dr. Pitts's relationship with Mike Profit as one of his clients. Mike holds me accountable. Lauren, this is where you were. This is where you are. This is where you said you want to be. If you do this, you're not going to get there. What does getting there mean to you? And then it's like, no, but he's my financial accountability partner too, because as I've disclosed over and over and over and over and over again on the show, life hasn't been easy. It absolutely positively has not been easy. A lot has happened that was beyond my control. There were things that happened that were within my control, but because of my ignorance, my immaturity, my just, running on emotion, or all of those adverse factors that were influencing my financial stability, that it was painful. It was extremely, extremely painful. And I don't want that pain anymore. So I'm like, okay, tell me what to do.
And just for the record, I don't say, no, you can't do that. I will talk you through it and let you come to that conclusion yourself. It's your money, your final choice.
Calling in June.
So, Mike, we got about 12 minutes before we start to wrap up. I had a couple other questions that had just popped in my mind real quick that, if you have, hopefully we have enough time for you to expunge on them a little bit. So my first question is, let's back up a little bit. I want to back up for our audience and whatnot. And, one of the most common debts is student loan debt. And, we have a lot of young listeners on this show, a lot of young student athletes who, might have a full ride in college where they're not paying, undergraduate loans and stuff like that. And, for me personally, I didn't have to pay undergraduate student loans. I was fortunate enough to have a full ride in undergrad. But in my master's program, I got all that work from the government. I've been getting emails for the last month or so like, hey, your 6-month grace period getting ready to end. Looking forward to getting your money, So talk to us a little bit about, the student, student loan debt, some common myths or, common, I guess, beliefs that, people have about student loans. And what I mean is, I hear a lot of people say, I have a lot of teammates and a lot of coworkers who sit there and say, oh, I ain't paying these off. Hey, they can kiss, they can kiss where the sun don't shine. Like, they're not getting my hard-earned money. And one of the things I try to tell people is, the school didn't put you in debt. Yeah, the school got the student loans and stuff like that, but that's for the school to be operational, to be functional, to pay their staff and things like that. You got in debt with the federal government or whatever private company gave you this money. So don't take it out on the school you graduated from. So what are some common, I guess, myths or things like that about student loan debt, and, how people can really approach student loan debt to where it doesn't have to be something that sticks with them until they, die, and it, just passes on, to their loved ones or things like that.
Yeah. Okay, Ronnie. If I can I share my screen with my contact info?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
For people that want to reach out to me.
Yep, there you go. Technology's a beaut, isn't it?
Awesome. Hey. Let me do this. So I put my picture on this little image over here because it had stairs, and I'm thinking we're always advancing, we're always going up. And then this line that runs through my picture is up and down, kind of like the stock market, and kind of like our lives, right? Sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down. So I thought it was fitting for this. But going back to the student loan question. So for those that haven't, picked the school or whatever, if they're younger in high school, for example, I mentioned it earlier about, hey, do you have to go to that school? Really think about which school you want to go to and why, and think about the financial ramifications of that, right? Can you get the same education to help you in the same career or whatever in a more cost-effective way? For those that are already in it and may already have that loan, you can contact me. I work with some people on my team that can help refinance, do some different things around that, maybe get you a better interest rate, things of that nature, which is why I thought I should put my contact info up now. What are some of the myths? Some of them are, yeah, like you said, I'm not going to pay it off ever. Okay, well, that could have a negative impact on your credit. If you're trying to get credit, if you're making it a habit not to pay back, that can have a negative impact. Other people I hear and that I've worked with may have the opportunity, depending on what they do as a career, to have that loan forgiven.
That's me and you, Ronnie.
Yep.
So that may be an opportunity for some people. And the way that program works is it's pretty strict. They'll lay it out for you in a nice way that makes it manageable, but you can't miss a payment, for example. You got to make sure you're following them, the letter to what that process is. But again, that may be extremely beneficial for a lot of folks.
So how much does student loan debt, because I've talked to several friends over the last year or so who are, looking to be first-time home buyers and things like that. And I've heard them sit there and say, because my student loans are in forbearance, or because I'm making payments on student loans. I've heard where student loans typically, I think, as far as your debt to income ratio, I think it weighs maybe up to 1% when they pull your financial records, to get approved for mortgage loans and stuff like that. So how does that necessarily work for somebody who wants to buy a house, but they might have, a significant amount, let's say at least $50,000 worth of student loan debt? How does having that much debt and not making payments on it, or having it in forbearance, how does that impact somebody trying to make a big purchase like a house or something like that?
Yeah, great question. And there's a word I use a lot in my role, and it depends. So it may depend on your past experience, what you've done. Is it only the student loan? What does your mortgage broker say? What does the bank say? So it really depends on a lot of different things. I would say, if you're going into that, talk to somebody like me to make sure you've got your ducks in a row, so to speak, so that when you go in, you're looking the best you can from a financial picture, going into to try to make that big purchase.
Got you. Would you, as far as somebody, dang, I love the question. I'm gonna come back to that question in a second, but I had one more question for you, and I don't know if Dr. Pitts had any other questions for you, but I always like to ask people when I pick their brains, people who are smarter than me and have more knowledge than me. You as a financial advisor, what are some of your favorite financial books that people could, maybe go to Barnes and Noble or Books a Million, or even just get, a Kindle and start reading to learn more about financial literacy and financial freedom? What are some of the books that you've read in your career that you would recommend to somebody to read in their spare time?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I'm a big personal development guy. I'm always trying to be the best me I can be, and I read all the time. But some of the best books, was one I read a while ago. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep. I love that book. Love it.
One I'm reading again right now is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
And that's a really good book. I always tell people you have to read that at least 2 or 3 times because it's a lot of information in that book.
It's an incredible book. It was written back in the 30s, I think. And it is fantastic. The first time I read it, I didn't get 95% of it. And that's why you got to go back, like you said, Ronnie, and reread it. Because as I grow my knowledge, as I gain experience, I go back to it and I pick up something new every time I read it. And it's just a phenomenal book. Another one that I found surprising, it's called, what's it called? A Happy Pocket Full of Money. Written by Gikandi, David Cameron Gikandi. He's from Kenya. But it was really inspirational and educational. I just felt great after I put it down, after reading a chapter or whatever. It just picked me right up. I thought it was an incredible book. I'm surprised I didn't hear about it before. But yeah, it's called A Happy Pocket Full of Money. And it explains things in a simplistic way, which I like to do. And it really resonated with me. So there's probably, top 3 for me.
I'm gonna have to check that one. I've read the first 2, but I'm gonna check that last one out.
I think that, to tie it up in these last 3 minutes and put a bow on it, I think that knowledge is power, and we educate ourselves about so many other things, pertaining to life and how we live our lives. And one of the biggest issues that people struggle with day in and day out is their finances, but they don't take the time to educate themselves about finances. That just does not make sense to me. I think that it is just so incredibly important to just saturate your mind with the information and then connect with a financial planner or financial advisor, someone that finances is the area of expertise, and let that person be your financial GPS. And here's the catch. And I think about this within, when I think relationally, I've always heard that even though Oprah has a financial planner, she's so aware of finances that she knows what they're doing. She's not in a situation where somebody's going to get over on her or steal her money. And you hear that with so many A-listers, if you will, in the celebrity world, that part of the reason why you've never heard of them going bankrupt is because they're financially literate. They understand the ins and outs of finances, and though they have a financial advisor, they know what the financial advisor is saying to them, as opposed to talking to someone and you don't have a clue as to what they're talking about. I can't even tell you how many people that I've encountered over the years, personally and professionally, that don't even know what the credit bureaus are, that don't have no idea, what impacts their FICO score and what doesn't. They don't know what a FICO score is, and that's just ignorance. It's ignorance that when we think about, hearing growing up all the time, how many times did we hear in our youth, what you don't know won't hurt you? That's the biggest lie. That is the biggest lie. It's one of the biggest lies I was ever told as a child. Oh my gosh. What you don't know can hurt you. What you don't know can devastate your life. And lack of what's the Bible say? My people perish for lack of knowledge. Well, continuing to walk around every day financially illiterate is causing you to perish in your finances. And that's what I want to close us out on today. Mike, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for your wisdom and your time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I just want to add, fundamentally, it's think of need versus want.
Yeah.
When it comes to your spending, start early, start soon. Yeah. I put my cell phone up there too for any listener that wants to text me their contact info to have a deeper conversation. Happy to do so. I'm not a credit repair person. I want to help those people that have good habits and grow to get to that next level. But again, thank you so much. This was fun. I always enjoy, talking about these things and trying to help people, right? If they're not sure what to do or where to go, to think about some of these things. So again, thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
So much for being willing to join us today, Mike. For our viewing and listening audience, Mike will be back with us on the 24th of April to close out Financial Literacy Month. Just thank you so very much. We are eternally grateful. We want you all to have an amazing remainder of your weekends. But look, you see the commercials that say drink responsibly. We want you to spend responsibly. And we will see you back next week on House Talk Pregame with Dr. Lauren Pitts. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Have a good weekend, everybody.